He was a beast tamer, a profession thought to be unrelated to combat. Because of this, he believed he would live an ordinary life. But that all changed on one fateful day. His friends apologized to Ryu, telling him they couldn't take him on their journey. They dismissed him as a non-combatant beast tamer, telling him to stay behind and care for the animals as they walked away. Ryu was left in a state of shock, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Ryu wakes up in bed, reaching out as the memory of the dream fades. He dismisses the unsettling memory as just a dream. He then goes about his day, tending to the cows on the ranch. A young girl calls out to Ryu while he's tending to a horse. She thanks him for helping her pet, which is now doing much better. As she praises his skills, Ryu privately reflects that he never chose to become a beast tamer. Ryu recalls how he was labeled a beast tamer at the church, which led him to run a ranch. In contrast, his two childhood friends were designated as a hero's egg and a mage. The prospective hero trained with the knights to fulfill his destiny, and the mage studied at the church's magical academy to support him. His friends went on a journey to save the world, achieving great success and fame. Compared to them, Ryu felt he had accomplished nothing. The girl snaps him out of his thoughts, asking if he was listening. She then informs him that his famous friends are scheduled to return to town soon. Later, while taking a break in the woods, he stretches and yawns. He feels exhausted and is glad to finally have a moment to rest. He reflects on the strange coincidence of dreaming about his friend's return just before hearing the news. He remembers how they used to play together all the time as children. But before he knew it, he was left all alone. So he turned to using his beast tamer skills to care for hunters' hounds and other animals. He scoffs at the ridiculous idea that taming a legendary beast like Fenria might have let him keep up with them. Suddenly, a rustling in the nearby bushes startles him. He wonders what the sound was, since no one ever comes to this part of the woods. He cautiously peers into the bushes, wondering if someone could be there. A wolf emerges from the foliage, its gaze fixed on him. He notes its striking black fur. Ryu is captivated, thinking it's beautiful. He realizes the wolf is caught in a trap. He approaches, telling it to hold on while he gets it out. Startled, the wolf yelps and bites his outstretched hand. Ryu struggles with the panicked animal, telling it to calm down. Ryu successfully removes the trap, declaring the wolf free. He then remembers he has a potion that might help. He applies the potion to the wolf's injured paw. After treating the wound, he tells the wolf it's safe to leave now. Ryu decides it's time for him to get back to work too. He turns and walks away. That night, as he lies in bed, Ryu thinks about the wolf. He wonders if it managed to make it back to its pack. He sincerely hopes it doesn't end up alone like he feels he is. Feeling tired, he decides it's time to sleep. The wolf from earlier appears at his window, wishing him a good evening and commenting on the lovely moon. Ryu is startled awake by the sudden appearance. He's shocked to realize it's the same wolf and that it just spoke to him. Ryu reasons that this is a monster, not a wolf, and it has a question for him. He realizes that a creature that can speak human language must be a higher-tier species and cautiously agrees to answer. He knows that one wrong move could mean his death, but the monster notes his honesty. The monster then asks him plainly, why did he help it? The monster presses for an answer, pointing out that he even used a valuable potion. Ryu internally panics, thinking that telling the truth is unbelievable, but lying could get him killed. The monster grows impatient and demands he hurry up and answer. He decides he has no choice but to gamble. Ryu shouts his answer, he helped because she was beautiful. He explains that he thought it would be a waste if someone like her died. The wolf is stunned, admitting that in her long life, no one has ever helped her for such a reason. The wolf remarks that Ryu is a rare type of human, and he asks if she saved him for fun. He then realizes she might not have needed his help in the first place. The wolf confirms she has taken a liking to him and asks for his name. He introduces himself as Ryu, and she tells him there's no need to be so formal. The wolf finds his name, Ryu, to be a rare one. The wolf declares that from now on, Ryu belongs to her, and objections are not allowed. Ryu is completely baffled by her statement. He asks what she means, and she clarifies it's exactly what it sounds like. She announces she's taking him home as her pet, leaving Ryu stunned. She announces it's time to go as she bursts through the wall. The wolf suddenly grows to an immense size before a terrified Ryu. As she picks him up, Ryu realizes she must be a Fenria, a creature that can talk and grow huge. She nonchalantly asks if he's only just realized this. The Fenrir drops Ryu to the ground, announcing their arrival. The Fenrir had carried him at a full sprint, a ride Ryu considered hellish. He looks up to see a blinding light in the clearing before them. His eyes widen in shock at what he sees. Ryu finds himself at the bottom of a large crater, looking up at countless other wolves peering down at him. The Fenrir who brought him there stands majestically on the clifftop under the full moon, surrounded by her pack. Ryu is horrified to realize he is facing an entire pack of Fenrirs. He counts at least 30 of them, with a massive one in the center that he assumes is the boss. He nervously realizes they are all glaring at him, and he fears he's not going to survive. The boss Fenrir thinks the situation is seriously bad, and addresses the Fenrir as his daughter. He demands to know why she brought a human there. She replies that she liked him, so she brought him back, making Ryu realize they are parent and child. The boss Fenrir roars in fury, shouting that her reason is not good enough. The boss Fenrir turns his rage on Ryu, demanding to know where he met his daughter. Terrified, Ryu explains that it was at the ranch where he works. The boss presses him for details on how they met. Ryu yells that he saved her when she was caught in a trap. The boss angrily retorts that his daughter can break human traps instantly, and that she was just playing a game. The daughter looks away sheepishly, and Ryu notes the boss's sudden drop in energy. The daughter explains that Ryu is a tamer who can perform medical diagnoses and might be able to improve the elder's condition. The boss is incredulous that this human could help. The boss dismisses the idea, stating the elder's illness is from old age and a human can't save him. The daughter reveals the cause is a lack of magical energy, which she admits is her fault. Ryu summarizes the situation. The boss of the pack is dying and the daughter kidnapped him to save the boss. He interrupts their family drama to address the issue. Seeing this as a potential opportunity, he asks to meet the old man to diagnose him. The boss Fenrir calls Ryu an insolent brat, but Ryu explains that the daughter brought him here to save the old man. He asks to at least take a look, acknowledging that if it's just old age, there's nothing he can do. The daughter looks on, hopeful. The boss reluctantly agrees to let him come. Ryu is led to a den where the elder, a massive Fenrir, is resting. The boss announces their intrusion to the elder. The elder weakly opens an eye and asks who has come. The daughter begins to explain who Ryu is, but he steps forward. Ryu introduces himself as a tamer brought by the elder's granddaughter to treat his illness. The elder is skeptical, saying no ordinary human can cure him, but Ryu insists he can. He then proposes a deal, stating that simply healing the elder offers him no benefit. The other Fenrirs are shocked by his audacity. The boss Fenrir accuses Ryu of deception, but his daughter pleads with her father to wait. The elder asks Ryu directly if he can really be cured, and Ryu confirms it. Glad to get straight to business, the elder asks him to state his wish. Ryu declares that he wants to become stronger. When the elder asks why, Ryu explains it's for the same reason as his granddaughter. He points out that a Fenrir turning to a human for help shows how desperate she was to save him. Because he understands that desperation, he wants to ask for help too. Ryu explains that he knows the frustrating feeling of being powerless. The elder seems to understand his reasoning. The elder accepts the deal to the shock of the other Fenrirs. Ryu asks what he needs to do, and the elder replies that it's simple. Ryu extends his arm, telling the elder to bite it and drink his blood. The boss Fenrir thinks the idea is ridiculous, and the daughter shouts in protest. The elder tells Ryu very well and prepares to bite. The elder bites down on Ryu's arm. As the elder bites down, a massive surge of power erupts from Ryu. The other Fenrirs are stunned and blown back by the force, wondering what is happening. Ryu winces in pain, while the daughter Fenrir looks on in confusion. The elder is shocked by the level of magic power, wondering how he could just be a tamer. Ryu explains that he's stronger than a hero, though he has his reasons for it. Ryu explains that he has too much magical energy for his body to handle, and going all out would cause him to explode. The daughter Fenrir realizes his magic is so high that he can't use it properly. Ryu confirms that he was simply born with this much magic, and it increases as he gets older. He laments that it's a total waste of potential. The elder suddenly has a realization. The elder lets out a revitalized howl, his condition now stable thanks to Ryu's magic. The younger Fenrirs are overjoyed and relieved. The elder then turns his attention back to Ryu. To uphold his end of the deal, he proposes that Ryu should train with their pack. The boss Fenria protests, saying it's wrong to let a human into their pack. He argues that Ryu is too suspicious and his power could endanger them, but the daughter says it is their thanks for saving the elder. The boss insists they should kill him now, but the elder silences him. The elder roars, furious at the suggestion of killing the man who saved his life. Even Ryu is scared by the intense atmosphere, though he knows it's not directed at him. The daughter asks Ryu if he knows who her grandfather is, explaining he is the first Fenria. She clarifies that through repeated training and evolution, he became what he is now, which makes Ryu understand his strength. The elder asks Ryu what he will do. Ryu asks if training can help him control his magic, and the elder confirms he'll need a lot of power. The elder offers him a chance to live and train with them to break his human limits and wield his magic. He warns Ryu that he might even die trying. Thinking of his two friends, Ryu declares that if he can get close to them, he will accept the offer. The elder agrees, saying he's counting on him. The elder then offers him a gift. He gives Ryu a shard from his own fang. Ryu is amazed, recognizing the insanely rare and valuable Fenria's fang. The elder explains that the fang will help him control his magic. Ryu clenches his fist, vowing to wait for his two friends. The daughter Fenria offers to take care of the fang for him for a while. Ryu resolves that to achieve his goal, he will get stronger here, marking this as a turning point in his life. 1 month into his hellish training, Ryu grits his teeth and prepares for battle. He faces down a large, pig-like monster. The monster lets out a ferocious roar. Ryu reflects that it has been a month since he started. Feeling great, Ryu faces the beast as it charges. He swiftly dodges and slices its arm. Ryu knows that these demon beasts have predictable movements, starting with a dodge. While the beast is stunned from the first attack, he moves in to strike its leg. As the beast loses its balance, Ryu delivers the finishing blow to its neck. Wiping sweat from his brow, he stands over the fallen monster, pleased with his work. He calls out to Milady, asking how she is faring on her side. A small Fenrir stands atop a massive pile of defeated monsters. Milady nonchalantly informs him that she's already finished with her side. She explains that she took care of the rest because he was too slow. Ryu acknowledges the incredible power expected of a Fenrir. Later, Ryu and Milady rest after the battle. Ryu feels completely wiped out. He reflects that while he can now handle low-level monsters, he still has a long way to go, though Milady points out he is getting stronger. He recalls that after a month of being thrashed by Fenrirs, his skills have improved immensely since his first day. His training has been intense, involving learning survival skills and building stamina by being chased by Fenrirs. He's even had to eat mildly poisonous berries to build resistance, feeling like he's just adapting to survive. More than anything, he's grateful for the unbelievably sharp fang he received from the elder. Milady proudly proclaims her grandfather is the patriarch, and she's incredibly proud of him. Ryu realizes being looked after by the granddaughter of the clan's patriarch is a big deal. He feels a pang of guilt, realizing the elder is in trouble because he pestered him for a name. Naming a magical beast requires a massive amount of magic power. The elder attempted the naming ritual but suffered from magic power depletion, which is why they call her Milady. Ryu comforts Milady, telling her not to look so down. He reminds her that her grandfather would be happier to see her smiling. Another Fenrir observes that Ryu seems to have warmed up to Milady. A messenger wolf rushes toward them, announcing it has a message from the elder. A messenger wolf coldly addresses Ryu as human. It tells him the elder wishes to discuss his training and not to keep him waiting. Ryu follows the wolf. The elder waits for his arrival. The elder welcomes Ryu, who announces his arrival. Ryu worries about the discontent within the pack, but the elder dismisses his concerns. The elder explains that the pack will soon have no choice but to acknowledge him. He announces that he will give Ryu a trial. He explains that a show of strength is the swiftest resolution for those who harbor discontent. Ryu nervously asks what the trial is. The elder reveals the trial: Ryu must hunt a cockatrice. He adds that Ryu must do it alone, shocking the boy. Ryu exclaims that a cockatrice is a major B-rank beast that even guild adventurers hunt in parties, and for a novice like him to hunt it solo is insane. Milady offers to help, but her grandfather forbids it, stating that this trial is a necessary catalyst for Ryu's growth. The elder tells Ryu that he still hasn't truly mastered the power of the fang. He explains that the fang is not merely sharp, it also possesses the quality of easily channeling magic power. He instructs Ryu to entrust his own power to the fang to open a new path. The elder explains that if Ryu can realize the fang's true potential, hunting a cockatrice will be a trivial matter. He tells Ryu it's fine if he doesn't understand for now. He instructs him to rest his body as the trial is set for sunset. The cockatrice makes its appearance. Hiding in the bushes, Ryu and Milady watch. The cockatrice confronts a small kame-tachi. The cockatrice's eyes glow with a terrible power. It turns the small creature to stone. The cockatrice lets out a piercing shriek, its power fully on display. From his hiding spot, Ryu realizes the situation is bad. Ryu analyzes the dangerous beast, noting its petrifying eyes, venomous tail, and poor eyesight. Milady asks if he's okay, and he admits he's not in the slightest. She warns him not to die or get turned to stone before he heads out. Ryu decides his first move is to reduce its number of attacks by targeting the bird part. Ryu changes his plan mid-stride, deciding to go for the snake first. He swiftly dodges its lunge and slices it off. He declares the first hurdle cleared. Now his plan is to aim for the main body's legs to stop its movements. The cockatrice's attack sends Ryu tumbling. He realizes it wasn't going to be that easy. He notices that the creature has lost sight of him and sees an opportunity to attack from its blind spot. He seizes the moment. Ryu lunges forward with a powerful strike. He is surprised by what happens next. To Ryu's horror, the cockatrice spreads its wings and takes to the sky. He stares in disbelief, shouting out that it can fly. With the cockatrice in the air, Ryu wonders what he's supposed to do now, as his attacks can't reach it. He feels there's nothing he can do from the ground but wait for it to come down. The creature then dives, unleashing an attack from above that sends Ryu scrambling. Milady calls out in worry as Ryu dodges. He realizes the gust of wind from the attack sliced his skin and that the creature can use magic. He laments his lack of a long-range attack, as his own magic is useless for combat. Then an idea strikes him as he considers the fang and his own magic power. Ryu recalls the elder's words about the fang's ability to channel magic power. He wonders if this is what he meant, and if he can replicate what the creature did. The cockatrice attacks again, forcing his hand. Realizing he's a goner if he doesn't do something, he decides he has no choice but to try. Ryu's magic power begins to swell around him. Milady watches in amazement. He focuses, telling himself to calm down as he channels his magic into the fang, little by little. He pictures the highly concentrated power gathering at the tip of the fang. The cockatrice attacks from above as he charges his attack. He charges it to its absolute limit, preparing to unleash it with all his might. With a final shout, Ryu fires a massive arc of pure energy from the fang, straight towards the airborne cockatrice. The cockatrice looks on in shock as the immense blast of energy hurtles towards it. The attack strikes true, obliterating the cockatrice against the backdrop of the full moon. Ryu stands in stunned silence. The defeated cockatrice crashes to the ground. He can barely believe that his desperate plan actually worked. Milady rushes to his side. She celebrates that he did it and has cleared the trial. Ryu manages a weak cheer, glad it worked out. Suddenly, he collapses from the effort. He is completely exhausted and unable to move as Milady cries out his name in alarm. Ryu tells a concerned Milady that he's going to sleep right there. Milady reluctantly supposes it can't be helped. With the trial over, he feels he can finally rest. As he drifts off, promising to report to Gramps later, he senses someone else's hand on his head. He wonders who's there, thinking he's the only human around. It's no use, he can't fight it any longer. His consciousness fades. As he falls completely unconscious, a mysterious figure leans over him. She softly wishes him a good rest. The elder arrives, telling the unconscious Ryu that he has done splendidly. With this proof of strength seized with his own hands, he is now truly one of the pack. Since passing his trial, Ryu has become incredibly popular with the Fenria pack, who swarm him daily with offers to play or train. Aju explains to an overwhelmed Ryu that he's become very popular since passing the trial. Ryu complains that while it's nice, his clothes are a mess, but Aju points out it's a sign of their acknowledgement. Ryu admits that it does make him happy, though he seems to have some reservations. Ryu feels the intense, disapproving glare of Arju's father Oyaji-san, who clearly does not accept him. Arju's mother pins down her mate, telling him to stop being so childish. Ryu observes that since Arju's mother is the one with higher authority, the situation is manageable. Ryu notes that his clothes are at their limit and wishes he could buy new ones in town. When asked why monster fur isn't enough, he explains that he lacks the skill to make clothes. He realizes he needs money to go to town, and his companion suggests asking the elder. Ryu decides to ask him for now. Arju's father immediately shouts for them to stop. He accuses Ryu of planning to sell their secrets to humans. Ryu understands that if information about the pack leaks, it would put them all in danger. Knowing it will be difficult, Ryu asks the elder if he has any human acquaintances. Arju's mother shrewdly observes that the elder does seem to know someone. Arju's grandmother steps in, suggesting the contact doesn't have to be human. The elder has a moment of realization. She then proposes introducing Ryu to an acquaintance of hers, a dwarf. She explains that dwarves are incredibly strong and skilled artisans who can make clothes if they have the materials. Ryu gratefully thanks the elder, who confirms his acquaintance in the land of the dwarves should agree to help. When Arju's father voices concern, the elder's mate suggests sending their granddaughter along to keep an eye on things. She frames it as a good opportunity for Arju to see the world, and both she and Ryu agree to the arrangement. Arju's father seems horrified at the idea. Arju's mother and grandmother playfully tell her to look extra cute for the trip. Ryu wonders why they're in such a strangely good mood. The grandmother then offers to teach Ryu a handy spell for carrying materials, since he'll need money. Ryu is relieved that things worked out. He contemplates the journey ahead to the land of the dwarves. Using the storage magic the elder taught him, Ryu packs up materials from his hunt, ready to set off for the land of the dwarf. When Ryu asks where Arju and the elder are, he's told they'll be there soon and that he'll be surprised. A moment later they arrive, apologizing for the wait. A beautiful girl with wolf ears appears, and Ryu stares in shock, wondering who she is. The girl nervously asks Ryu what he thinks, wondering why there's another human in the forest. Ryu is confused, wondering how she knows his name and why her voice sounds so familiar. He realizes it must be Arju, and her grandmother confirms the transformation was a success. Ryu then remembers seeing a human figure when he defeated the cockatrice and realizes it was her. Arju explains that she's been practicing her human form for a while, dreaming of exploring the world with him. The grandmother makes a request of Ryu to give her granddaughter a name. Ryu is shocked, realizing this means forming a contract with her. He hesitates, aware that naming her would make her his familiar, a serious commitment despite its benefits. The grandmother assures him there's no need to hesitate, as they are both aware of what it means. She explains that she trusts him after everything they've been through, and that her granddaughter has long desired a name. Arju confirms that she truly wishes to receive her name from him. Moved, Ryu agrees to form the contract. He and Arju face each other to begin. With the contract ready to be sealed, Ryu bestows upon her the name Ruri. The contract is complete. Seeing her silence, Ryu worries if the name was no good, explaining he thought something simple would be nice. Ruri's face breaks into a radiant smile as she exclaims that the name is perfect and thanks Ryu. The grandmother observes that the naming was a success. An overjoyed Ruri grabs Ryu's hand, ready to go, and bids farewell to her family. During their travels, Ruri asks what the dwarf country is like. Ryu explains that, according to the elder, it's a nation at the foot of a mountain mine that grew prosperous by making weapons and armor. As they get closer, Ryu trails off, saying something is hard to explain. Ruri has become very clingy, making Ryu blush and ask if she isn't a bit too close. She confesses that she had to act serious in front of everyone, but she's always wanted to be this close to him. Ryu realizes she's actually quite clingy and affectionately pats her head. They arrive at the large gates of the dwarf country. Ruri is eager to head inside, but Ryu stops her, asking her to change into her wolf form first. When she asks why, he explains that it's because she doesn't have an identification card. Ryu explains that since most countries require identification, she might get caught at the checkpoint in human form, but it would be easier if she's his familiar wolf. Ruri agrees and transforms back into her wolf form. They get in line for the immigration inspection. The person in front of them in line, a young man named Mark, asks if it's Ryu's first time in Fulcran. Ryu explains he's here to sell monster materials and have clothes made, and Mark confirms it's the right place for it. The two introduce themselves before parting ways. At the checkpoint, Ryu explains he wants to sell materials and request tailoring. He clarifies that he's not with the Merchants Guild and plans to sell through the Adventurers Guild, so the guard asks to inspect the materials. Ryu presents the materials. The guard is stunned by what he sees. He quickly tells Ryu to wait a moment. An official from the guard post approaches Ryu. He asks Ryu to accompany him to the guard post. Inside, the official explains that they detained Ryu because they have something to discuss. The official makes an offer. They would like to purchase the hides for the country. He explains that the materials are of such high quality that the higher-ups want to buy them. A shocked Ryu thinks this over, as he was planning to see an acquaintance of the elder first. He explains his plan to have the local craftsmen take a look at the materials. The official asks for the blacksmith's name. When Ryu says the name is Dwarf Crown, the official and the guard are visibly shocked. The room falls silent. Ryu is confused by the sudden change in atmosphere, wondering if Dwarf Crown is famous. He admits he doesn't know much about him, as he was just an introduction from an old man he knows. The official repeats the word famous with a worried expression. The official reveals that Dwarf Crown is the king of this country. Ryu is completely stunned by this revelation. As they walk away, Ryu can't believe the elder's acquaintance is the king. Ruri telepathically asks what they are going to do now. Ryu is startled, having forgotten that familiars can communicate through telepathy. Ryu decides that since the king will explain things later, they should first go to the guild to sell some materials. He is surprised to see Mark, who calls out to him for being late. Mark says he was waiting and got worried because the inspection took so long. Ryu apologizes, explaining that it took a while to check his materials. Ryu asks Mark for directions to the Adventurers Guild, and Mark, interested in his materials, agrees to show him. Mark points out that the guild is conveniently located right next door. He explains it was built near the entrance, so adventurers can easily report their completed quests. They enter the bustling guild hall. Mark explains that the back area is the reception. He clarifies that there are 3 desks, General, Adventurer, and Purchase, and directs Ryu to the latter for selling materials. The receptionist at the purchase desk welcomes them to the Fulcran branch. Ryu decides to sell just one low-grade material for now, saving the better ones for the king. Ryu places a massive hide on the counter, announcing he wants to sell it. The receptionist identifies it as a giant boar hide and rushes off to get it appraised. Mark is shocked, asking where on earth Ryu acquired such a thing. The crowd in the guild murmurs in amazement at the rare and high-quality catch. Ryu casually dismisses it as just a boar's hide, but Mark insists it's not just any boar. He exclaims that a giant boar is an A-rank monster. Ryu realizes that living in the Great Forest must have messed up his sense of what is normal. The receptionist returns after a moment. She offers 62 gold coins for the fur, an amount that leaves Ryu completely shocked. Ryu accepts the offer, and the receptionist gives him the 62 gold coins. The other adventurers are amazed by the huge amount of money, praising Ryu's skill and potential. Ryu can hardly believe he's become strong enough to defeat such valuable monsters. Ruri proudly reminds him telepathically who trained him. With the money he needs now secured, Ryu knows the remaining problem is the king. He hopes nothing goes wrong. The official from the guard post rushes into the throne room, urgently calling for Lord Dwarf. He apologizes for the noisy intrusion, but explains he has something he needs to report right away. The official reports that a man appeared wanting Lord Dwarf to examine some monster materials. He specifies that the materials are all valuable items, such as the hide of an A-rank monster. He concludes that the situation seems very suspicious and asks the king what he would like to do. The king listens intently. King Dwarf Crown orders the official to bring the man to him tomorrow. He muses that this man might be of use to them. Ryu senses that many difficulties lie ahead, while Ruri warns him not to let the king get away. At the inn, the proprietor returns Ryu's clothes, freshly laundered and mended. Ryu thanks her profusely, apologizing for having had to borrow pajamas. She remarks on how tattered they were when he first arrived, guessing he must have been a vagrant or a robber. Ryu thinks to himself that he could never admit his clothes were ruined from training with Fenria. Ruri asks if Ryu is heading to the castle, and he confirms his promise to the guards. He recalls how the messenger's summons caused the adventurers at the inn to get the wrong idea about him. Stealing his resolve, Ryu declares it's time to go. Together, they set off for the castle to meet the king. Ryu is led down a long hall lined with armored guards. A guard informs him that the king is waiting just ahead. Ryu finds the welcome rather extravagant for a regular person. Before they enter the throne room, the guard warns him not to do anything disrespectful. As Ryu approaches the throne, he is struck by the king's powerful presence. Ryu internally assesses the dwarf, recognizing his formidable strength. He concludes that the king is on par with high-tier monsters, though not quite at the level of the Fenria chief or his own grandfather. Ryu cautiously introduces himself as a base tamer, realizing he must watch what he says. The king tells him to raise his head, stating he heard about him from the soldiers and asks about his request. Ryu begins to explain his wish to use the hide he brought. The king interrupts, bluntly accusing him of stealing the hide. The accusation leaves Ryu utterly shocked. Annoyed by the king's rudeness, Ryu insists he hunted the monster himself. The king scoffs, claiming a mere base tamer couldn't have succeeded in the great forest, which he calls home to the cursed Fenria. Hearing Fenria called cursed confuses Ryu, as he thought the king was an acquaintance of his grandfather. Deciding it's best not to mention his grandfather, he simply states that a friend helped him. The king presses for details, reasoning that anyone who could return from the great forest unharmed would have a nickname. Ruri is getting agitated by the king's attitude, but Ryu tells her to calm down. Still, Ryu feels that something is off about the situation. He finds the king's bad impression of Fenria and immediate hostility suspicious for an acquaintance of his grandfather. Ryu begins to doubt if he should be asking this king for help. The king proposes an exchange. He will craft the clothes, but Ryu must leave all the monster hides as payment. Ryu counters, asking what will happen with the accusation of theft, and the king replies he won't be handed over. The king is surprised by Ryu's firm stance. Ryu looks the king in the eye, questioning if he understands what he's implying. He states plainly that he doesn't trust the king and has no intention of making a deal with him. His bold declaration enrages the guards, who shout at him for his disrespect. Ryu decides to trust his hunch that something is wrong with this king. The king explodes with rage at Ryu's disrespect. He orders his guards to arrest them. As Ruri prepares to fight, Ryu stops her, reasoning that causing trouble with an entire kingdom is a bad idea. Ryu concedes, admitting he doesn't think he could win against an entire kingdom. The king is pleased that Ryu is wise enough to realize this. He orders his men to throw them in the dungeon. As they are led away, a guard tells them to behave themselves. Inside their cell, Ryu sighs. He didn't expect them to confiscate all the hides, and Ruri thinks they should have fought back. Ryu explains he couldn't bring himself to fight against someone who supposedly knows his grandpa. He is relieved that the fang is still safe, as they mistook it for junk. Just then, another prisoner in the cell speaks up. The other prisoner asks what a new guy like him was thrown in for. Ryu is surprised, not having noticed anyone else in the quiet cell. Ryu explains his crime was refusing to sell monster hides to the king, and the man notes it has happened again. Ryu then asks what his cellmate's crime was. The man's answer is simple: treason. The prisoner explains that all he did was stop a group of dwarves from hunting in the great forest, warning them they stood no chance against Fenria. Ryu now understands why the king called Fenria cursed and wanted his hides, but thinks being jailed for that is extreme. The prisoner adds that he'd thought the king would be an incredible dwarf, but now concludes he is a fake after all. Ryu is confused by this statement. The prisoner reveals a shocking truth. The man on the throne is Lord Dolph, the identical twin brother of the real king. Ryu is stunned to learn the king has a brother. The man explains that Dolph secretly imprisoned his brother and brainwashed the advisors and soldiers. He himself grew suspicious after learning of an invasion plan for the Great Forest and was arrested. The real king, he says, is in a high-security cell deep within the castle. The prisoner describes the real king's cell as having tight security, with iron doors and a curse that suppresses power. Ryu realizes his grandfather's acquaintance must be the real king and that he should help him escape. He tells his senior to stay back and prepares to act. The prisoner expresses disbelief, saying that not even a dwarf's strength can break the cage, but Ryu is confident. With a determined look, Ryu prepares to break free. In a display of incredible power, Ruri shatters the bars of their cell. Their fellow prisoner is left stunned. Standing amidst the debris, Ryu confidently states that for them, it is possible. The bewildered prisoner asks who they are. Ryu helps him to his feet, simply explaining that they are beast tamers and their familiars. Now free, they know that Lord Dwar is imprisoned at the end of the hall. Peeking down the corridor, Ryu spots two guards. His companion worries if they can really rescue Lord Dwar, but Ryu assures him they will save him. He asks the man if he can fight. The warrior explains that without a weapon, it's impossible. Ryu tells him to just keep watch while they handle it. Ryu and Ruri charge forward. The guards, shocked, yell at them to stop or be killed. Ryu instructs Ruri not to kill them, but to keep them distracted so he can knock them out. One of the guards attacks. Ryu calmly assesses the attack. Ryu finds the guards move slower than Fenria, their actions easier to sense than the monsters he's used to. He easily dodges and strikes one guard, confident of an easy win. Meanwhile, the other guard boasts he can take down the wolf in one swing. He is shocked when Ruri effortlessly catches his sword in her mouth. Seeing an opening, Ryu swiftly moves in. He kicks the second guard, knocking him out. With the fight over, he turns to their companion. The warrior is surprised at how easily they were defeated, and Ryu simply says that he has been training. Now only the door remains. The warrior confirms it's a solid iron door, cursed to prevent escape from the inside. However, Ryu senses that the curse doesn't affect the outside. With a powerful cry, he smashes the door with his bare hands. Inside the cell, a piece of the shattered door lands near the real king. He has been sitting in quiet meditation. The king opens his eyes and asks who they are. Ryu introduces himself and confirms the man's identity as King Dwar, who is surprised a tamer made it so far. The king apologizes on behalf of his foolish brother. Ryu insists the king is not to blame and says he has something important to ask. Ryu asks the king if he could make some clothes for him. King Dwar asks why he came to him specifically, and Ryu explains that he was referred by the chief of Fenria. The king becomes suspicious, stating that Lord Fenria shouldn't have any human acquaintances. To prove his claim, Ryu presents the fang the chief gave him and calls for Ruri. At Ryu's call, Ruri transforms into her human form. The king is shocked, immediately recognizing Fenria's human transformation magic and learning Ruri is the chief's granddaughter. The king, now convinced, says no further explanation is needed, acknowledging the fang is real. Apologizing for doubting him, King Dwar agrees to grant Ryu's request. Ryu stares in shock as a dragon flies overhead. From a distance, another group observes the scene. The massive creature lands with a thud, towering over Ryu, Ruru, Garuda, and King Fenria. The group of four, clad in dark fur-lined attire, walks towards Ryu's party. Their leader greets Ryu, saying it has been a while. Ruru shouts grandfather, while Ryu wonders how the man knows his name. Ryu puts the pieces together, identifying the group as Ruru's very intimidating family. The grandmother teases Ryu, correctly guessing he was thinking about how young she looks. The elder and King Fenrir greet each other. The elder explains that he has a small favor to ask of Ryu and the others. He reveals that a troublesome fellow is about to awaken. He names their foe the sorcerous evil dragon. He explains the nature of the three-headed dragon and why it had to be sealed away long ago. Ryu is stunned by the description of such a monster. He continues, explaining that they received word the seal is about to break, which is why they have come. The elder states that it is a formidable opponent and they need all the help they can get. He asks Ryu and his companions to lend their strength. Ryu is hesitant, but the elder dismisses his concerns, reminding him of his training under Fenria. With the elder's encouragement, Ryu agrees to help. When Ryu asks where this creature is, the elder informs him it's in the Dragon Kingdom. The elder explains the situation involves a joint struggle with the dragonkin of the Dragon Kingdom. He declares that time is precious and they must leave immediately. A massive white dragon appears, speaking directly to Ryu. Ryu recognizes the creature as the huge dragon he saw earlier. The elder apologizes for the late introduction. He introduces the dragon as his sworn brother, the Earth Staff Dragon. The dragon politely greets Ryu. Ryu is flustered but responds, amazed that it can also speak human language. Midgard Sormer announces he will take them to the Dragon Kingdom. The group takes flight on the dragon's back. Ruru's grandmother notes how unusual it is for Ryu to have survived making two familiars, a feat that should have killed him. Ruru's father furiously accuses Ryu of cheating and vows to punish him. Ruru's mother sternly tells him to stop. Ruru explains that she and Garuda became close, like sisters, during their month together. Ruru's grandmother asks Garuda if she gets lonely. Garuda explains that she isn't lonely because her papa, Ryu, and big sis, Ruru, are kind. The elder tells her that it is always better to have more people to rely on. Ruru's mother tells Garuda that if she is Ruru's little sister, she's like a daughter to them as well. The elder smiles, inviting Garuda to think of them all as her family. Garuda is visibly moved by their offer. She quietly agrees. The dragon informs the group that they are almost there. Ryu looks on in awe. Ryu looks down from the dragon's back, taking in the breathtaking view of the kingdom. A wide aerial shot showcases the entirety of the Dragon Kingdom. Ryu expresses his awe at the Dragon Kingdom. The dragon comments that it's not his favorite place due to its small size. He explains that because the buildings are made to human scale for the half-human dragonkin, a regular dragon needs to take human form. After they land, Ryu thanks Midgard Sorma. The dragon transforms into his human form. Midgard Sorma leads them towards the gate, with Ryu noting his impressive height even in human form. Two dragonkin guards stand watch at the entrance. The guards greet Midgard Sorma respectfully. Another individual inquires about the reinforcements, and Midgard Sorma introduces the group. The horned man asks about the human Ryu. The guards openly question if having a human disciple is all right. Ryu calmly acknowledges that it's a common sentiment. Ruru's father angrily confronts them, asking if they are implying someone he trained is weak. He glares at them, declaring that they will soon understand Ryu's true strength. Ruru's father issues a challenge. If Ryu wins against their superior, his participation must be accepted. Ryu is completely caught off guard. A superior officer steps forward. The two fighters stand opposite each other in the courtyard, ready to duel. As Ruru's father and Garuda cheer him on, Ryu questions how he ended up in this situation. Midgard Sorma volunteers to be the witness. He announces the conditions for victory: one fighter must faint or retire. The commander states that as a military leader, he cannot afford to lose and will fight seriously. Midgard Sorma signals for the match to begin. The commander lunges at Ryu with incredible speed. Ryu struggles to defend, noting that each of his opponent's blows is incredibly heavy. The commander mocks Ryu, stating that simply defending won't be enough to face Dhaka. Ryu internally admits that his opponent is not only strong but also fast, leaving him no opening to knock him out. Ryu knows he can't win with sword skills alone, and plans to use a magic-infused strike to create an opening. He decides to keep the power to a minimum to avoid a disastrous outcome. He sees his chance and strikes. His blade makes contact. The impact of Ryu's blade sends the commander crashing into the far wall. Horrified, Ryu realizes he's still not used to handling his weapon's power and has made a serious miscalculation. Midgard Sorma calls a stop to the match. He declares the match goes to Ryu. Ruru's father and Garuda celebrate the victory. Ryu nervously checks on the commander. Relieved that the commander is fine and the Dragon King won't be angry, Ryu breathes a sigh of relief. The elder commends Ryu, observing that his handling of magic power has improved despite overdoing it slightly. Midgard Sorma announces he will open the gate. He uses his power to push the massive gate open. The group watches in anticipation as the gate rumbles open. A voice from within welcomes them. Midgard Sorma welcomes them to the Dragon Kingdom. From a window above, a figure is surprised that a human was capable of defeating one of their soldiers. The shadowy figure notes that a very interesting individual has arrived and that they look forward to speaking with them. Ryu and his companions arrive in a bustling town within the Dragon Kingdom. He's impressed by how much it's thriving, which Midgard Sorma notes is fitting for the dragon's main stronghold. Karin seems distracted by something in a shop, but dismisses it when Lil asks what's wrong. Midgard Sorma notices Karin's interest in a hair clip. He tells her they have time before facing Dhaka, so they can come back later to browse properly. Ryu suggests they all go shopping together later. The idea delights both Lil and Karin. As they proceed to the castle, Midgard Sorma suggests they first go greet the Dragon Lord. Ryu observes the diverse population inside the castle. Midgard Sorma explains that the Dragon Kingdom is a nation of various dragons who can assume human form, accounting for the different races present. The discussion continues, with Ryu learning that Draconauts can be part human, half-breeds, or even evolved from lizard folk. When Ryu asks about the Dragon Lord, Midgard Sorma describes him as a supremely strong, special evolved type. The elder cheekily compares the Dragon Lord's strength to his own, which Ryu takes seriously. Midgardsormr then leads them to a large door, announcing that their destination is just beyond it. Beyond the doors lies the throne room, where the Dragon Lord and the Dragon Princess sit. The Dragon Lord sits on his throne. The Dragon Princess sits beside him, both exuding an aura of royalty. Midgardsormr announces their arrival to the Dragon Lord, and Ryu notes the distinct aura of royalty. The Dragon Lord thanks Midgardsormr for bringing warriors of such caliber. The Dragon Princess addresses Ryu directly, acknowledging that she heard he defeated one of her captains earlier. She remarks that she has never seen a human with such strength, aside from a hero, and is counting on him. The Dragon Lord abruptly calls for a strategy meeting, while the Dragon Princess instructs them to wait in their guest rooms. The elder is puzzled, as he sees no other fighting forces present for such a meeting. Ryu is shocked to learn they'll be fighting Dhaka with only the people currently present. The Dragon Lord confirms this with a sigh. He explains that last time, they had the cooperation of the previous hero and various other races. But this time, with the new hero's arrival, the other races have declined to help. The elder understands the situation, and Ryu worries if they will be okay with less strength. Ryu asks why they have not sought help from the new hero Tia, but the Dragon Princess says they would if they could. She explains that the current hero views all monsters with hostility and is likely to attack any of them on sight. Ryu is shocked to hear that Tia attacks monsters indiscriminately. The elder grimly accepts that they must manage with their own strength and apologizes. The story shifts to a flashback where Tiger reflects on Tia's strange behavior. He tells Gran that something feels off about her. Tiger describes the way Tia looks at monsters as unnatural and even frightening. Gran is surprised, remembering Tia as someone who was not scary even as a child. Tiger finds it hard to ask her directly and questions Ryu, who denies knowing anything. Ryu wonders if Tia's behavior is just a stronger sense of justice or if there's a deeper reason. He worries about what could make Tia despise monsters to such an extent. The scene shows the hero's party reacting to what they consider an outrageous demand. The King of Falkrown insists that for a legendary class weapon, they must bring him legendary materials, Fenria's Fang and Garuda's Flame. Tiger is dismayed, as they came specifically because the king was a master craftsman. Maria argues that not getting the weapon would defeat the purpose of their journey. Gran and Maria agree that Tia needs the best weapon she can get since she fights on the dangerous front lines. The hero's party decides to head to the local guild for information on the materials. At the guild, they notice something odd. People immediately clam up and scurry away the moment Fenria and Garuda are mentioned. A mysterious cloaked figure approaches, asking if they wish to hear tales of the legendary beasts. The figure introduces himself as an information broker. He asks why the hero's party seeks information on Lord Fenria and Lord Garuda, and they explain the king's request. Gran impatiently demands information, but the broker offers to explain the situation for free. The broker reveals that a month ago, a man appeared with Fenria and Garuda and became a local hero by quelling a conflict. Tia seems unimpressed by this information. The broker explains that the locals fear that the new hero, who is rumored to despise monsters, might kill their saviors. Furthermore, they fear that if information leaks and the beasts are harmed, their revenge could ruin the country, which is why everyone is silent. Tiger notices Tia has been quiet throughout the explanation. Tia's silence breaks with a furious declaration that the monster's power is all the more reason they must be killed. Thanking the broker, she storms off, ignoring Tiger's plea to wait. She vows to eradicate every last terrifying monster. And when that is over, she will absolutely find Ryu. Back in the present, Ryu is bored while waiting in their guest room. He knows he cannot wander off while the Dragon Lord and Elders are in a critical strategy meeting. Lil and Karin are eager to explore the castle, and Ryu agrees it sounds fun. He insists they must get permission first, instead of just wandering off. As Ryu opens the door, he's startled by a maid, recognizing her as their assigned attendant. He explains they wish to look around the castle. The attendant agrees to guide them, much to Lil's delight. Ryu is surprised that he did not sense her standing right in front of the door the whole time. The attendant shows them the dining hall. Next, she points out the library, and then the training grounds. She proudly presents the central courtyard, the kingdom's pride, which amazes Ryu and the girls. The group expresses their admiration for the magnificent courtyard, and the attendant is pleased. The attendant mentions that the dragon princess and her highness will be delighted, piquing Ryu's curiosity. Ryu asks if there is another princess, and the attendant confirms that children are vital for the kingdom's future. After a moment, Ryu asks who it is that has been following them. A figure is seen peeking from behind a pillar. A young girl with twintails steps out, demanding to know how Ryu sensed her. Ryu and his companions are surprised to see that their follower is just a child. Ryu asks the girl if she needs something from him. The girl stammers nervously. She suddenly points at the sword on his hip. She loudly demands he hand over the sword. Ryu is taken aback and flatly refuses. The girl gets angry when Ryu explains the sword is dangerous for a kid. She throws a tantrum, yelling at him not to treat her like a brat. The attendant apologizes and offers to call the girl's guardian, which Ryu calmly accepts. His companions try to soothe the girl by saying her parents will be there soon, assuming she is lost. This only makes her angrier, as she feels they are making fun of her. Declaring she will take it by force, the girl lunges at Ryu. Ryu easily dodges her attack. He notes that while she is surprisingly quick for a child, her movements are simple enough to avoid. The girl continues her frantic assault, but Ryu keeps refusing to give her the sword. He calls out to Lil and Karin for help. They seem amused by the situation, with Karin remarking that he is dodging just fine. This lack of support only infuriates the little girl more, who proclaims that she is now truly angry. Enraged, the girl's hands transform into long, sharp claws. Ryu is shocked by the transformation. She warns Ryu that he will regret underestimating her. She launches another, more dangerous attack. Ryu narrowly dodges the attack, which shatters a stone pillar upon impact. Concerned, Ryu approaches to check if she is all right. The girl cries out in pain from the recoil. The girl bursts into tears, wailing that it hurts. She questions why she could not win despite her superior magic and bloodline, as Ryu tries to calm her. The attendant from the throne room arrives, thanking him for waiting, while he suggests getting a doctor for the girl. The woman who arrived is the dragon princess, Guiper. The girl is surprised to see her, calling her Ms. Guiper. Confused, Ryu asks why she is here, as he was expecting the girl's guardian. Guiper formally apologizes for the trouble her daughter has caused. Ryu is utterly stunned. Guiper confirms that the child is her daughter. The maid who had been guiding them then adds that the girl is also her grandchild. She huffs that she would rather not claim such an ill-mannered grandchild, while Ryu realizes the attendant is a guardian. Ryu's mind reels as he connects the dots. The attendant is the Empress Dowager and Guiper is her daughter. He is shocked to realize this spoiled brat is the princess and the future of the kingdom. Auka is furious, realizing the girl who defeated her is the princess of the country. Just then the elder arrives, having heard the commotion and correctly guessing Ryu was involved. He exchanges greetings with Tiamat, the Empress Dowager. He then asks for an explanation of what happened. The elder understands that Princess Auka wanted Ryu's sword, though she angrily protests that it was Ryu's fault for dodging. Tiamat sternly scolds her granddaughter, attributing the loss to her coddled attitude and lack of training. Tiamat apologizes to Ryu for her granddaughter's behavior. She then reveals that she has a favor to ask. Tiamat asks Ryu if he would be willing to become her granddaughter's training partner. Ryu questions if he is the right choice, but Tiamat explains that Auka would run from anyone stronger. Guiper adds that Auka's interest in Ryu would ensure she does not flee. They implore him, explaining that Auka must be ready to become the next queen. The elder encourages Ryu, pointing out that it is a good opportunity for him to get stronger too. Ryu agrees to their request, telling them to raise their heads. In return, he asks Tiamat if she would become his master. He explains that as the Empress Dowager, she must be highly skilled, and he wishes for her guidance. Tiamat agrees to his simple request, and Ryu thanks her. Ryu suggests that Karin and the others can take it easy, but Karin immediately objects. She declares that she wants to train too. Ryu expresses his concern about the danger, but Karin insists she wants to be useful to everyone. She confesses that she no longer wants to be left out or feel alone. Ryu is moved by her words. The elder agrees to look after Karin's training, making her very happy. They all agree that it's always better to have more strength on their side. Tiamat and the elder seem to be planning some sort of trial. Tiamat announces that training will begin tomorrow, and the elder ominously warns Ryu not to die. Ryu is left confused by the warning. The next day the training begins, and Tiamat immediately sends Ryu flying. She tells him to get up quickly as they are just getting started. Ryu realizes the training is incredibly Spartan and thinks the elder knew exactly what he was signing them up for. Tiamat shouts that while his fundamentals are fine, he has too much wasted movement. She instructs him to move more efficiently and conserve his stamina. She warns that at his current level, he won't be able to defeat Dhaka. Ryu finds it tougher than he thought, but seeing Karin and Lil trying their best, he resolves that he cannot run away. Ryu is determined to get stronger and catch up with the heroes. Tiamat decides that's enough for the first day, much to everyone's relief. However, she then orders them to finish off with 100 laps of running, much to their dismay. Ryu and Auka are completely drained. Tiamat announces that she will start managing their meals as well. She strictly forbids leaving any leftovers. Karin and Lil observe that the two seem to be having a tough time. The elder remarks that being a princess is tough, but praises Auka's guts. A few days later, the training continues. Ryu and Auka are sparring intensely. Ryu manages to stop Auka's attack, declaring that it's enough. Auka is frustrated at losing again, while Ryu is simply tired. Lil advises Auka to think before she moves, as her attacks are too monotonous. Karin tells Ryu his movements are fine, but his reactions are slow because he moved after Auka attacked. She explains he must perceive his opponent's movements and take the initiative, or he won't be able to react against a fast enemy. Ryu thinks it's impossible, but Tiamat says it is not. Tiamat explains that he simply needs to read their magical power. She elaborates that since thoughts move faster than the body, sensing the accompanying magical power allows one to grasp an opponent's movements. Ryu is confused, and Tiamat realizes it is difficult to explain with words. The elder asks Ryu if he has ever felt overwhelmed when facing a strong opponent, which makes Ryu recall a past experience. Tiamat senses that Ryu has the ability, and decides it's faster to hone it through actual combat. To demonstrate, she starts unbuttoning her blouse. A flustered Ryu demands to know what she is doing. He reflexively covers his eyes and yells at her to cover up her front. Tiamat transforms into her massive dragon form, towering over Ryu. She announces that she will now give him a trial. She states the condition: if he can land a single scratch on her while using his weapons, he will pass. Tiamat tells Auka that if she can land an attack on Ryu, she will pass. For Ryu, he must attack Tiamat while evading Auka's attacks, and he protests that the conditions are much stricter for him. Tiamat tells him that if he wants to resent someone, he should resent himself for choosing her as his master. The elder announces that the real test is starting now. Tiamat declares for the trial to begin. The trial begins, and Ryu struggles to dodge a powerful tail swipe from Tiamat. He tells himself that Dhaka's attacks are nothing like this. Auka attacks him from the side, telling him not to forget about her. Ryu wonders what he is supposed to do in this situation. Auka complains that even though the target is big, she keeps dodging, and whenever she gets close, someone interferes, preventing her from landing a hit. Tiamat scolds Ryu for being lost in thought, reminding him to read her magical power. She warns him that he will not pass as long as he relies on his eyes. Exhausted, Ryu stands his ground, panting heavily. He focuses his gaze, determined to push through. Tiamat wonders if this is their limit, thinking that Ryu has done well for a human. The elder gets Tiamat's attention. He suggests that it is possible that person resides within Ryu. Tiamat disagrees, seeing no sign of it and thinking the elder lord is mistaken. Ryu's demeanor shifts as he enters a state of intense focus. Tiamat notices the change in him. The elder watches with a knowing smirk. Tiamat thinks to herself that it is worth a try. Tiamat taunts a kneeling Ryu, asking if this is all humans amount to. Auka sees an opening, thinking she can attack now and perhaps even kill him. Auka questions why Tiamat is stopping her. Tiamat reasons that if he is going to fail and be killed by Dhaka anyway, it would be a happier fate to die here without suffering. Tiamat bids him farewell. Auka pleads for her to wait, but Ryu is filled with despair. He thinks of how far he came to catch up to the heroes, only for it to become useless. He refuses to let it end like this. He declares absolutely not. Tiamat is surprised by his outburst. An explosion of force erupts from him. Auka is blown back by the force. Ryu lands a strike on Tiamat's claw. He is shocked that it actually hit. He realizes that for an instant, he sensed a mass approaching before her body arrived, allowing him to dodge, counterattack, and land the hit. He wonders if this is the sensation of reading magical power, and Tiamat confirms that he can do it if he tries. Tiamat says it was worth putting on an act, as they cannot go around killing their guests. Ryu is surprised it was an act, but Tiamat admits she was half serious. She congratulates him, saying he passed with no complaints. A happy Ryu thanks her. Auka throws a tantrum, crying that it's not fair only one person passed, and vowing to keep trying until she passes too. Tiamat tells her not to be selfish and that her turn will be another day, but Ryu asks if the princess didn't pass too. Auka glares defiantly at her grandmother. Ryu explains that he didn't notice until now, but it seems Auka's attack grazed him, so he thinks it should count as a pass. Tiamat concedes that she didn't specify the attack had to be on the body. She declares that Auka passes too, and the princess is overjoyed. Auka celebrates her victory. Ryu pats her head, and she tells him that for a human, he's not bad himself. Lil and Karin run up, congratulating them both and suggesting they all eat together. Later that night, Tiamat remarks to the elder that she never thought she would end up drinking with him like this. The elder reminisces about the old days when monsters vied for power, and Tiamat agrees they were both hot-blooded back then. The elder asks how the training is going. Tiamat reports it is going smoothly, and that Ryu is a very good kid, which surprises the elder. Tiamat admits she never thought a human could keep up with her training, and the elder speculates the day Ryu surpasses them isn't far off. Tiamat agrees, noting that Ryu seems broad-minded and does not even grimace at Auka's selfishness. Tiamat wonders aloud if she could somehow force Master Ryu to become Auka's husband. The elder chokes on his drink, asking if she's drunk and if she's really okay with giving a human the dragon throne. Tiamat replies that she believes in welcoming the strong, rather than relying on bloodlines, and that his skill would overcome any problems. She adds that it seems Master Ryu has been chosen by that person. The elder realizes she is right. The elder realizes she is speaking of their god. Tiamat explains that during the trial she felt that person's power emanating from Ryu. The elder confirms that his magical power was beyond human. They wonder why their god would grant power to Ryu when so many others who tried to obtain it died from its immense force. Tiamat concludes they have no choice but to confirm it with him directly. The elder states that if that person acknowledges Master Ryu, he holds a power greater than any bloodline. Tiamat asks if anyone else has noticed, but the elder thinks it is unlikely since it has been a long time since that person disappeared. They agree to try asking sometime about when Ryu and that one met. A hidden mystery surrounds Ryu, to be revealed when the time comes. 5 days have passed since Ryu began his intense training with his new caretaker, Tiamat, in preparation for the battle against the evil dragon. During a sparring session, Ryu throws a powerful punch. Tiamat effortlessly blocks his attack, a slight smile on her face. She tells Lord Ryu that he seems to have grown. Ryu asks if she really thinks so, and Tiamat confirms that his punches are much heavier compared to the first day. Tiamat continues to praise his impressive progress. Pleased, Ryu clenches his fist, thinking that at this rate, he might even be able to land a hit on Dhaka. Tiamat surprises Ryu by telling him she's giving him a special day off tomorrow. She explains that he has pushed his body quite a lot, and that taking time to rest is also a part of training. She offers to inform the elder herself, and suggests he go out with Lil and Karin. Ryu agrees, realizing he hasn't really looked around the city and decides to go sightseeing. In his bed, Ryu stirs as someone calls his name. He drowsily wonders who is calling to him. A figure stands over him, urging him to wake up. Ryu opens his eyes slightly, recognizing the voice as Lil's. Lil energetically tells Ryu to wake up. She asks if he is still half asleep and tells him to hurry and change because Karin is waiting. She reminds him of their promise to go to town together today. The group makes their way through the busy streets of the town. Ryu asks where they should head first, but Lil and Karin admit they don't know what's in the town. Karin remembers seeing some ribbons earlier and suggests they go look at accessories. Ryu thinks it sounds like a good idea and agrees to go. Princess Auka appears, surprising Ryu, and announces she will guide them. Tiamat explains that she has been called to a meeting about Dhaka countermeasures and would like Ryu to look after Auka for her. When Ryu asks about the other attendants, Tiamat explains that unfortunately no one else can keep Auka in check. Ryu feels the pressure of Tiamat's request, worrying that if something happens, he'll be totally screwed. They enter a sparkling accessory shop. The shopkeeper greets Lady Auka and asks how he can help, explaining that he brought them here since they were looking for accessories. Lil and Karin are amazed by how pretty and numerous the items are. Ryu approaches the pouting princess and asks if she is not going to look with them. Auka huffs that she already has similar things and is not really into women's accessories anyway. Taking the opportunity, Ryu says he wants to ask her something. Before he can speak, Auka asks him why he seeks power so much. Ryu is taken aback by her sudden question. Auka presses him to answer her sudden question. Ryu explains that he wants to catch up to his childhood friends. He elaborates that both of his friends had rare combat jobs while he was just a normal one, so he was left behind on their adventure, which is why he decided to become stronger. Auka finds it hard to believe that someone with his power has an unfortunate job and asks what it is. Ryu tells her he is a beast tamer. The princess is stunned by his revelation. Auka exclaims that there is no way a beast tamer could ever beat her, but Ryu insists it is true because he trained properly. He explains that it is thanks to Lil and the others that he got strong. Auka is surprised to hear he has traveled to other countries, reflecting that if he hadn't met Lil, he wouldn't have done so. She eagerly asks if traveling is fun and what kinds of places and people he has seen, but Ryu admits he has barely traveled, as this is only the second country he has been to. Ryu asks Auka if, as a princess, she isn't more familiar with other countries than he is. She quietly tells him that is not the case. She has never even left the Dragon Empire. She explains that as a princess and a child, she is not allowed to leave the country easily, confessing that she wants to be free too. Auka suggests that maybe they are kind of alike, which surprises Ryu. Auka protests that it cannot be true, as there is no way royalty and commoners could be together. Ryu smiles and admits that he used to think that way too. He explains that while his childhood friend was worried about him, he felt jealous and frustrated hearing their travel stories, feeling like he was the only one left alone. He asks the princess if it is not the same for her. Auka quietly agrees. Auka agrees wholeheartedly, complaining that her father, mother, and grandmother are all overprotective for her own sake, and she wishes they would think about how it feels to be left behind. She exclaims that if she could go on a journey, she would visit new places, meet all kinds of races, and have amazing experiences. Ryu prompts her to continue. She shyly finishes, saying she would maybe make some friends too. Auka quickly adds that she is strong, so being alone is not a problem. Ryu realizes Auka was messing with them earlier because she felt left out. Karin returns, showing off her new ribbon. Ryu compliments her, saying the ribbon is cute and looks good on her. Lil asks what he and Auka were talking about. A flustered Auka quickly turns away, claiming it was nothing. Ryu bluntly tells the others that the princess said she wants to be friends, shocking Auka. A confused Karin asks why Auka would say that on her own. Karin innocently asks, "Aren't we already friends?" Auka is completely shocked by her question. Auka stammers, asking what Karin is talking about, while Karin points out that they have talked, eaten, and trained together. Karin states that people who do such things together are called friends, but Auka protests if it is just because of that. Karin asks if being friends with her was unpleasant, explaining that while she has family, this is her first time having a friend, so she was really happy. Auka is at a loss for words. Lil adds that it's the same for her. Besides Ryu, Karin, and her family, she isn't close with anyone and would be happy if they could be friends. Karin sighs while Auka grumbles to herself. Finally, the princess relents and says, "Fine." Auka declares that if they are going that far, she will be their friend and allows Lil and Karin to call her by her name. Karin suggests that Auka should buy a ribbon too, but Auka points out she already has one. Karin excitedly says they should match, as it will be proof that they are friends. Auka seems to realize this means everyone will know they are super close friends. Lil and Ryu smile, both happy to see Karin and Auka getting along. Ryu asks Lil if she is not buying anything, reminding her they still have money from Fulcran. He suggests a necklace, but Lil thinks the chain looks too much like a collar and dislikes it. She adds that it would just get in the way during a battle, so Ryu suggests something edible instead. Suddenly, Ryu has an idea. Ryu surprises Lil by putting a scarf around her neck and asking how she likes it. Lil asks if it is a scarf, and Ryu explains it would not feel tight and she could wear it on her arm. He adds that since it is white, it would look great with her black hair. Ryu adds that he is not an expert, so if she does not like it. But Lil interrupts, telling him it is perfect and thanking him, promising to treasure it. The group reflects that they made good purchases. Karin asks where they are going next, and Auka tells them to leave it to her. Auka smirks, sure that they will be satisfied. Suddenly, Auka stops, looking up at the sky. A dragon is seen flying overhead. Tiamat runs towards the group, calling out to them. Ryu asks what is wrong, and she explains that they have run into a bit of a problem. She informs them that the sealing spell on Dhaka seems to be unraveling faster than expected. Tiamat warns them that at this rate, it might be released today, shocking Ryu. Ryu realizes the time has come. He steels his resolve, knowing that while it is sudden, there is no turning back. He asks Tiamat if they can go to the sealed cave, and she confirms she came to take him there. They decide to return to the castle for now, and once ready, they will all head there together. The seal on the cave begins to crack. A dark presence stirs within the cave, finally awakening. A voice from the darkness declares that at last, the time has come. The formidable enemy sees its chance to fulfill its true goal. Ril is surrounded by an endless swarm of snake-like monsters, lamenting that for everyone she takes down, more appear. Ril's companion worries that they have been separated from Ryu and the others for too long. He resolves that they must reach Dhaka quickly and regroup. Sensing their struggle, Ryu urges them to hold on, calling out to Ril. The mighty Dhaka stands over her foe, demanding a better fight. Auka desperately tries to rouse an injured Tiamat, telling his grandma to get a grip. Dhaka wonders aloud if a sacrifice is needed to unleash her opponent's true power. As an explosion rocks the battlefield, Ryu cries out in alarm for Auka and Tiamat. Ryu and Ril arrive on the scene to find Tiamat incapacitated. Auka weakly thanks him for coming. Ryu shouts words of encouragement, telling Auka to hang in there. Ryu angrily asks Auka why he thinks they came, while Auka blames himself for Tiamat's condition. Ryu reminds him that if he dies, all of Tiamat's efforts to protect and train him will be for nothing. Ryu clarifies that they are all worried about Tiamat, and that is why they must defeat Dhaka now. Ryu smiles, suggesting to Auka that they fight together. Moved by his trust, Auka agrees. He turns to Tiamat, promising his grandmother that he is okay now. Auka vows that he won't do anything reckless by himself again. The team, now united, stands ready to fight Dhaka together. Dhaka looks on with approval, stating that their determined eyes finally make them opponents worthy of the title hero. Dhaka defends against the team's coordinated assault. Karin unleashes a powerful blast of fire. Dhaka recognizes Karin's attack as the legendary fire of Garuda. Deeming her a troublesome child, Dhaka decides to take her out first. Ryu watches in horror as Dhaka's attack ensnares Karin. Ril leaps in to intercept the attack, saving Karin from harm. Ril checks on Karin, who confirms she is okay. Dhaka sets its sights on its next target. Ryu and Auka defiantly move to block the way. Dhaka declares their efforts to be futile. Their attacks are effortlessly repelled. Ryu finds himself at a loss, wondering what to do next. The group is forced onto the defensive, as their attacks simply bounce off Dhaka's magic. Ryu recalls his training with Tiamat, realizing there must be a weak point. He concludes he must carefully observe her movements and the flow of her magic. Suddenly, Ryu spots a potential opening in Dhaka's defense. Though he knows it's a long shot, he resolves that he has to try. He calls out to Ril and Karin, telling them he needs their help. Ril and Karin express their concern about the plan. They ask what would happen if he fails, noting that he is the most vulnerable as a human. Ryu reassures them, stating that he knows they will protect him if something goes wrong. He tells them that because he trusts them both, he wants to try this plan. Convinced by his faith in them, Ril and Karin agree to give it their all. Ryu begins explaining the plan to Auka. Dhaka watches from a distance, amused by their scheming. Dhaka decides to press her attack, declaring that if they won't come to her, she will go to them. Ril suddenly leaps onto the massive creature's back. Dhaka notices the unexpected change in trajectory. Dhaka scoffs at the nimble wolf, confident that Ril cannot possibly dodge an attack while in midair. She unleashes a powerful swipe. The attack connects with a decoy made of Garuda flames, much to Dhaka's surprise. She notes that even she cannot get close to that fire. Dhaka is shocked to see Auka charging directly through the intense flames. Dhaka is baffled as to why the Garuda flames are not working, believing a dragon of Auka's level should be reduced to ash. Ryu explains to Auka that his armor, made with Karin's heat-resistant feathers, is protecting him so he can draw Dhaka's attention. Ryu has figured it out. Dhaka's magic is strong, but if she loses her magic power, she cannot cast spells. Dhaka sees Auka charging head-on again and calls him a fool. She prepares to attack, vowing to make him meet the same fate as his grandmother. Auka retorts that she is the real fool. As Dhaka's attention is fixed on Auka, Ril strikes, severing her tail. Ryu yells in confirmation that her tail was the source of her magic. Impressed, Dhaka acknowledges that they were aiming to seal her magic all along. She declares that from this point on, it will be a battle of pure raw strength. Dhaka roars with excitement. The group exclaims that the fight is finally getting fun. Dhaka revels in the battle, declaring this is the kind of fight she has longed for. Although her wish for a good fight is granted, Dhaka feels something is strangely missing. She realizes the hero is not among the brawlers. She wonders if there is still more to come. Dhaka frantically searches the battlefield, wondering where the hero has gone. Ryu announces his presence, leaping from Ril's back and soaring directly towards the distracted Dhaka. Ryu's blade glows with infused magic. Dhaka finally understands the entire battle was just a ploy to buy time for Ryu to charge his blade with magic. As Ryu descends, Dhaka realizes her wish is finally coming true. She is ecstatic, believing this is the opponent she has been waiting for. She roars, proclaiming that this is the hero's true form. The two opponents collide in a final decisive strike, ready to settle things once and for all. The dust from the massive explosion settles, revealing the aftermath of the intense battle. The enormous two-headed creature Dhaka lies defeated on the scorched earth. From a distance, Auka, Ril, and Karin watch. Auka cautiously wonders if they have truly won. Ryu's hope turns to shock as Dhaka, despite the powerful blow, begins to stir. Ryu and his companions erupt in celebration, believing they have finally achieved victory. Auka joyfully announces he is coming to help his grandmother. Their celebration is cut short when Dhaka rises once more. Ryu is startled by the unexpected movement. Dhaka calmly compliments Ryu on his impressive strike. She calls it a worthy death for a wicked dragon. She offers him any reward he desires, assuming he is the hero. Ryu denies fighting because he wanted to. He questions her insistence on fighting the hero, while Dhaka seems eager to continue. Dhaka explains her true motive: she simply wanted to fight strong opponents. Her power attracted many challengers, but none were a match for her, so she sought an equal to test her strength. Eventually, she came to believe that only the hero could be her equal. She recounts how heroes came to defeat her, but the ceiling was incomplete, leaving her unsatisfied. All she truly wanted was an equal, someone who could recognize and acknowledge her strength. Ryu realizes that having great power from birth is a burden. He recalls how he was also ostracized by the hero party for being a trainer who couldn't fight. He understands that Dhaka was alone, just like him. As Dhaka urges him to decide on a reward, Ryu declares that he has made his choice. With a bright smile, Ryu asks Dhaka to become his friend. His request stuns his companions and Dhaka herself. Auka shouts in protest, demanding to know what Ryu is thinking. Ryu explains that he understands how Dhaka feels. He knows that having too much power can lead to loneliness. He points out that since they have already defeated her, they are now equals. Ryu declares that since he and Dhaka are equals, he thinks they can be friends. He cheekily asks if that counts for both of them. Auka immediately voices his strong opposition to the idea. Auka argues that Dhaka has killed many people and harmed his grandmother, so befriending her is wrong. He fears that if they forgive her, she might go wild again. Ryu counters that from what he heard, Dhaka only fights those who attack first. Before Auka can protest further, Tiamat tells him that is enough. Tiamat explains that with Dhaka's power suppressed, the magic affecting her has been lifted. Auka rushes to his grandmother's side. Tiamat advises that the monster world is about survival of the fittest and they should leave this decision to Ryu. Ryu reassures Auka, saying that if something happens, they can combine their strength to stop Dhaka again. He tells Auka he doesn't need to trust Dhaka, but asks him to place his trust in him instead. Auka reluctantly agrees, warning Ryu that he will regret it, but Ryu thanks him. Dhaka chuckles, remarking on the strange wish for a wicked dragon to have friends. Ryu then offers to heal the wounds inside Dhaka, his new friend. As a bright light emanates from Ryu's hands, Dhaka offers a token of their new friendship. She places a piece of her soul inside him, leaving Ryu to wonder what just happened. Dhaka bids farewell to hero Ryu and vanishes. Aoka watches in shock as she disappears. Suddenly, Ryu collapses to the ground, and Ril rushes to his side, crying out his name. Ryu finds himself floating in a dark, empty space before losing consciousness. He awakens to a gentle touch. He dazedly asks where he is. A mysterious woman explains that he is inside his own consciousness. Ryu recognizes the woman as Yuru, who greets him with a gentle smile. Yuru greets Ryu, noting that it has been a while and that he is not fully recovered. She chides him for being reckless again. She reminds him that the fight with Dhaka was dangerous. Ryu then realizes she was the one who helped him during his training. He promises to be more careful, and she forgives him. Ryu tells Yuru about Dhaka placing a piece of her soul inside him. Yuru gestures towards a floating, egg-like object, confirming that it is indeed what he suspects. Ryu remarks that Dhaka's soul is surprisingly pretty. Yuru explains that so-called wicked dragons weren't born evil. They were originally just very powerful dragons who were corrupted by forbidden magic and research. Yuru asks if Ryu spared Dhaka out of sympathy, or if he couldn't kill her because he is also a dragon. Ryu admits it's a bit of both, but he also doesn't want to kill recklessly. Yuru smiles, saying she likes that about him. Yuru directs Ryu's attention back to the soul. She shows him a small dragon within it, explaining its Dhaka healing in her soul form. Ryu asks if she will revive, and Yuru reassures him that it's okay, as she will be there if anything happens. As she tells him it's time to go, Ryu asks when she will be able to leave his body. Ryu worries that Yuru must be lonely inside him. She reassures him that she doesn't feel sad. In fact, she finds the space inside him to be warm, comforting, and even comfortable. Relieved, Ryu says that's good, before beginning a hypothetical question. Ryu asks if Yuru could leave his body if he became the Demon King. Startled, Yuru confirms that she could. But she quickly advises him against becoming one. Yuru warns that Demon Kings are like beasts, and getting involved with them is too dangerous. She cuts the conversation short, telling Ryu their time is up, though he tries to protest. Yuru bids him farewell, promising they will talk again. Ryu jolts awake. He finds himself surrounded by his concerned companions, who are relieved he's all right. They explain that after he collapsed, they all returned to the castle to care for him. Realizing he must have slept for some time, Ryu thanks everyone. His friends tell him to rest more and leave the room. Left alone, Ryu reflects on his abrupt conversation with Yuru. He suspects there's a problem with his idea of becoming the Demon King. Alone in Ryu's consciousness, Yuru contemplates that if he becomes the Demon King, she can be free. However, she knows that those with immense power often end up lonely, perhaps even losing the friends they have made. She is left to wonder if Ryu could endure such a fate. In the wake of Dhaka's defeat, the town erupts in a joyous festival. Citizens toast to the victory and the hero who achieved it. The people cheer for the Dragon King and Lord Ryu. Karin observes that Ryu's newfound popularity will make it harder for them to move around unnoticed. In the throne room, the Dragon King formally thanks Ryu for his efforts in defeating Dhaka. He offers Ryu any reward he desires, but Ryu politely declines. The king insists, explaining it reflects poorly on the nation's honor if they don't reward those who have earned it. Reluctantly, Ryu considers that he must accept for the sake of their pride. Unsure what to ask for, Ryu inquires about typical rewards, and the young dragon prince suggests treasure or privileges. As Ryu contemplates, Tiamat suggests an alternative. She offers herself as his reward. Her proposition leaves Ryu and his companions completely stunned. The girls react in shock, wondering if Ryu is getting married. While the Dragon King seems amused by the idea, Ryu is flustered, thinking it's impossible. The Dragon King asks Ryu for his thoughts on Tiamat being a fine match. He pleads with Tiamat to correct them, but she claims to be quite serious. The Dragon King then questions why Ryu is so against the idea. Desperate to change the subject, Ryu suggests that a claw from Tiamat would make an excellent weapon. Ryu is taken aback by his own suggestion. The prince agrees, noting that dragon claws can be forged into swords and their scales into armor. Cornered, Ryu quickly tells the king he will take that as his reward. The king accepts Ryu's choice, granting him a claw and telling the party to relax while it is prepared. Tiamat appears somewhat disappointed by the outcome. Later, Ryu is seen practicing diligently with a sword. Karin finds Ryu training and suggests he should be resting. Ryu explains he needs to keep moving so he doesn't get rusty. He is driven by the need to get stronger, not only to face Dhaka if she ever revives, but also to catch up to the hero. Elsewhere, Auka shares this same determination to get stronger and catch up to the hero. Auka brings Ryu some refreshments sent by her grandmother. She notices him staring and asks if there's something on his face. When she inquires about his plans, Ryu reveals his intention to find and travel with his childhood friend. Auka asks why he wants to know, hinting at her own request. Auka then asks if she can go with him. Ryu is surprised, but Auka insists it's fine, confident her father will agree if she's with him. Ryu then recalls a time she asked him what traveling was like. Auka confesses that her status as a princess prevents her from leaving the country, but she truly wants to. Ryu is all for the idea. Ril is excited at the prospect of traveling with Auka, but Karin voices her concern about taking a princess away from her country. Ryu agrees that it's not a decision they can make on their own, which disappoints Auka. Ryu tries to cheer her up, saying they are with her on this. Ryu decides they should simply ask the Dragon King for permission, saying they'd be glad to have Auka join them. Auka is overjoyed at his suggestion. Just as she resolves to speak with her father, the group returns to the throne room. An attendant appears, announcing that the Dragon King is calling for them. Back in the audience chamber, the Dragon King apologizes for the wait. He presents Ryu with his promised reward. To Ryu's shock, it's not a single claw, but a case displaying several large, impressive options. The king explains that since Tiamat's claws vary by species, he prepared several choices. The Dragon King explains the different properties of the claws. A wind dragon's is light and sharp, a water dragon's is flexible, and an earth dragon's is heavy and tough. He encourages Ryu to choose whichever he likes from the various types. With so many unique options, Ryu finds it difficult to decide. Ryu picks up one claw, noting that its size and weight feel just right, reminding him of the Elder's Fang. The Dragon King commends his choice. He reveals that the claw is, in fact, from Tiamat, much to Ryu's surprise. He teases her about her disciple liking a part of her, but she tells him to stop. He then snaps his fingers, having just had a great idea. The Dragon King's idea is for Ryu to take Tiamat with him as well. The suggestion shocks everyone again. However, Tiamat respectfully declines the offer, stating that she has a duty to raise Auka into a fine lady. Auka, flustered, tells her to stop the teasing. Seeing an opening, Auka turns to her father and grandmother and declares that if her grandmother won't go, then she wants to go on the journey with Ryu instead. Auka explains that she has wanted to see the world with her own eyes for a long time. She won't give up even if she's stopped for being a princess. She bows deeply and pleads for permission to go on the journey. The court officials express concern, reminding her that she is still just a child. Tiamat agrees, questioning if the journey is too dangerous. The Dragon King understands Auka's feelings, but thinks it's too soon for her to go on a journey. Tiamat argues that Auka fought Dhaka and returned safely, proving she is more than capable. Karin adds that with Ryu accompanying her, there should be no problem. Tiamat agrees to allow Auka to go. However, she adds a crucial condition. Whoever accompanies the princess must be responsible for her safety, and if anything happens, all responsibility will fall on Ryu. The Dragon King asks Ryu if he can shoulder that immense responsibility. Auka insists she can protect herself, but Tiamat reminds her of how she acted on her own during the last battle. Tiamat states that if no one can protect Auka, they cannot allow this. Faced with the gravity of the situation, Ryu admits that the responsibility might be too much for him. He acknowledges that he cannot promise that Auka will not get hurt. Ryu pauses before continuing his statement. However, Ryu declares with resolve that if anything does happen, he will protect Auka no matter what, not because she is a princess, but because she is their friend. He bows deeply and on behalf of his entire party asks them to please let Auka join their journey. Tiamat listens to his plea with a serious expression. The king notes Ryu's audacity in calling royalty a friend, and Ryu quickly tries to apologize. Tiamat asks the Dragon King for his decision. The king reasons that refusing now would be like denying everything Ryu has accomplished. He concedes and announces that he will allow Auka to go on the journey. Auka celebrates, overjoyed that she can finally go on a journey. Ryu is happy for her, but as she thanks him, he mentions there is one condition. Tiamat announces that she will be joining them on their journey. Auka and Ryu are surprised by this development. The Dragon King clarifies he never said they would be going alone. Tiamat explains that she cannot let Ryu bear the responsibility alone, especially if Auka causes trouble that could spark a war. The rest of the group is pleased, thinking the journey will be even livelier now. Auka grumbles about the journey turning into surveillance. The Dragon King declares them all set, much to Auka's dismay. However, he reveals he has one more request for Ryu. He wants them to go to the elf village. The Dragon King explains that a messenger from the Spirit King has just arrived from the village where elves and spirits live together. Ryu wonders why the Spirit King would want him, and the Dragon King explains that he wants his help. Word of the human who defeated Dhaka has spread, and it's Ryu's strength thereafter. The request is simple. They want Ryu to capture poachers who are hunting spirits and demi-humans. These poachers capture spirits for their power and sell elves as slaves, but since they operate in human territory, the spirits cannot intervene directly. That is why they are asking a human for help. Ryu realizes they must be desperate to ask a human for help against other humans, and his companions tell him to do what he wants. Ryu's companions are all in agreement. The uncertainty is what makes traveling fun. With their support, Ryu accepts the quest to go to the elf village. Ryu asks if he should speak to the Spirit King directly, but is told the village elder will speak on his behalf. He instructs them to head to the village on the south side of the Great Forest. The Dragon King and Queen wish them a wonderful journey and tell them to take care. Auka promises she will. With their new mission set and their party expanded, the group excitedly sets off. Ryu and his companions venture into the Great Forest south, continuing their adventure. The group finds the terrain difficult to traverse due to the thick tree roots. Tiamat notes that the center of the forest is filled with giant trees. Ryu expresses his relief upon hearing that the path will become easier once they are closer to the elf village. He admits to Tiamat that it would be tough if the whole journey was this difficult. Auka struggles to keep up, panting from the effort. She tries to insist she can handle it, but Ril notes that she is already tired. Tiamat encourages her to view the difficult trek as training, while Ryu wryly observes Tiamat's typically Spartan approach. Tiamat mentions that this is her first time in the southern part of the Great Forest. Ril grows concerned, asking if this means they cannot enter the village, but Tiamat explains that high-ranking spirits usually place barriers around the area. Tiamat reassures her that mentioning Lord Ryu's name to the guard spirits around the village should grant them entry. Hearing this, Ryu hopes a guard is nearby. Ril and Ryu are amazed, as it is their first time seeing a spirit. The spirit then turns and tells them to wait for a moment. Ryu and Ril wonder what is going on, as the spirit seems to be asking them to follow it. The group follows the spirit as it zips through the forest. They note that they seem to be moving further away from their destination. Suddenly, Ryu hears a human voice warning them to get down. The group is abruptly pulled out of harm's way, just as a large tail sweeps through the spot where they stood. They find themselves facing a swarm of giant spiders. Auka is startled, and Tiamat identifies them as insect-type monsters called Conchaugata. Ril wonders why there is such a huge swarm, while another voice cries out for their papa. They see that people are being attacked by the swarm of spiders. Despite not knowing the full situation, Ryu declares that they have to help, and Ril readily agrees. One of the victims cries out in terror as a spider looms over him. Ryu leaps into battle, swiftly dispatching a giant spider. Ril joins the fray, attacking another one of the monsters. Auka also launches an attack against the spiders. The spirit who led them there watches the battle from the safety of a nearby tree. After the fight, Ryu checks on the victims and confirms everyone is okay, while Tiamat observes that their injuries seem minor. The spirit that led them there approaches Ryu. It asks if they could please help them with the cage nearby. The group discovers a group of elves locked inside a cage, with one explaining that the door is locked. Ryu and Ril are shocked to realize the captives are elves. One of the rescued elves expresses her immense gratitude, but Ryu tells her there's no need for thanks as they came at the request of the Spirit King. He adds that a spirit showed them the way, gesturing to the being who led them. The spirit, an elf in disguise, nervously tries to silence Ryu. He quickly dismisses his own strange behavior as nothing when questioned. The other men they saved regain consciousness, remembering the spider attack. Without a second thought for the elves, they declare their intention to flee the forest immediately. As they run, one of them drops a dagger, which Ryu notices. He picks it up, finding a strange emblem on it that he recognizes from their clothing. Tiamat admits she's never seen the emblem before. She speculates that if they use emblems to identify allies, they might be part of a larger organization. The group considers that a criminal guild or even nobles might be involved. Realizing the danger, Ryu decides they need to form up and get information. He arranges the group into a protective formation with the elves in the center and resolves to speak to the elder quickly. One of the rescued elves explains that 4 women and 2 children have been targeted and kidnapped. Ryu is disgusted that humans like himself could be responsible. An elf elder states that they must catch the poachers to ensure the safety of both elves and spirits and that they are almost there. The group is informed they are almost at the village, just through the next set of bushes. Pushing through the foliage, the group finally arrives at the elf village, which one of the elves proudly calls her hometown. Ryu and Ril gaze at the village in awe. The rescued elf Ellen is tearfully reunited with her family. Ellen is embraced by her great-grandfather, who exclaims that she is safe. He tells her how worried he was, while Ryu observes the family reunion. Ellen explains to her great-grandfather that Ryu saved them. The great-grandfather thanks Ryu profusely, who humbly says it was only natural. Upon learning they came at the request of the Spirit King, the elder is stunned to realize he is speaking with the famous Lord Ryu. The elder introduces himself as Al-Ray Sauron and presents his grandchild, Ellen. Ryu is shocked that someone who looks no older than his early 30s could be an elder. Tiamat reminds him that elves do not appear to age. Having heard about them from the Spirit King, Sauron invites them to come with him. Gathered with the village elders, Sauron announces that Lord Ryu has arrived at the Spirit King's request to begin a rescue operation for their captured friends. Ryu is surprised that the situation has already escalated to a full-blown operation. Sauron explains that they have tracked the poachers and discovered they are selling captives to slave traders in the Elk Principality and have planned an operation accordingly. The elves' plan is to infiltrate the mansions of slave traders and nobles, rescue their friends, and seek retribution against all involved in the poaching. Ryu is taken aback by the simplicity and recklessness of the plan. Ril whispers to him, asking if he really thinks they have thought it through, while the elves declare their readiness to go. Ryu quickly interjects, trying to halt their reckless plan. He points out that they do not even know where the abducted elves are being held and have not checked inside the slave traders' establishments. One of the elves argues that the investigators haven't left the Elk Principality yet and that fighting nobles could provoke retaliation. Ryu insists they need to plan more carefully, but the elves counter that they do not have time. An elf passionately argues that their comrades are suffering and losing their dignity. He insists they cannot keep their anxious friends waiting any longer. Seeing their desperation, Ryu quietly acknowledges their point. Tiamat explains to Ryu that the elves are not being careless but are rushing because they care so much for their comrades. Ryu understands their strong desire to save the captives. Tiamat agrees that they must be even more careful because of it. Ryu tells the elves that rushing in without a solid plan could lead to failure and more harm. He tells them to leave it to him. Ryu proposes a new plan. As a human, he will infiltrate the slave traders by posing as a customer. The elves are shocked by the dangerous suggestion. Ryu explains he will get close to the merchants, gather information, and if needed, buy the captives back on the spot. Auka, however, questions if they even have enough money for such a feat. Ryu confidently states that if they do not have enough money, they will make it by hunting large monsters in the Great Forest. He asks Elder Al about any troublesome monsters nearby, and the Elder mentions a poisonous giant spider. The Elder explains that the spider has been breeding in the forest and causing problems for the village. Tiamat confirms they just fought one, and Ryu agrees that it shouldn't be a problem. With a solid plan in place, Ryu rallies the group, declaring that they will head out to rescue the spirit elf and the spirits. However, as they depart, the elf who guided them earlier calls out with a start. The elf who guided them, Al, is confronted by another elf for wandering off. Al apologizes, explaining he was just curious about the rumored human, but the other elf scolds him for acting on his own. The other elf then asks him for his impression. Al, who is revealed to be the Spirit King in disguise, places his trust in tamer Ryu. He believes that Ryu and his party are kind-hearted and brave, and that they will surely save the village as the rescue operation begins. A woman dreams of an ideal utopia where humans and spirits could coexist. She imagines a future where humans could lend power to spirits, reversing the current dynamic where humans only borrow power through contracts. A small, crowned figure points out that such a world would be inconvenient for humans, which is precisely the problem. A man laments that humans are starting to forget the respect and gratitude they once had, now treating spirits like tools. The crowned figure declares their intention to change this destructive relationship. This memory strengthens Ryu's resolve. He vows to keep believing in that ideal until the very end. After finishing his hunt, Ryu feels confident they have gathered enough. When a companion wonders why humans buy spiders, Ryu explains that their thread is used for clothes and their venom is useful for adventurers. An elf then approaches, telling Sir Ryu that it's time to head for the Duchy of Elk. A group of other elves observes them as they prepare to leave. The elves of the village plead with Ryu, counting on him to save their people. They explain the devastating losses, including the elder's daughter and children who are now orphans. The entire village bows, begging him to save their precious family. Moved, Ryu solemnly swears he will save them. An elf approaches and gives him something. The elf hands Ryu a letter. He explains it's a request from the Spirit King to deliver it to the King of the Elk Duchy, surprising Ryu. Ryu asks what it's about, but the elf only knows that it must reach the king no matter what. Ryu accepts the task, thanking the elf. As Ryu's party departs, the elf prays for the Spirit King's protection to be with him. As they travel, one of his companions asks about the Elk Duchy. Ryu admits he doesn't know much, other than that it's a small country and doesn't require an entry card. His companions find it strange that a nation under spirit protection is involved in kidnappings. They suspect someone might be scheming behind the scenes. Ryu decides their first step upon arrival is to gather information at the guild while cashing in the spiders. The party arrives at the capital of the Elk Duchy. At first glance, the town seems ordinary. However, they quickly notice an unsettling, lifeless atmosphere hanging over the streets. At the guild, Ryu turns in the iron spiders to be cashed in. He receives a large payout for the materials. He notices the other adventurers staring silently, a familiar and uncomfortable situation. After collecting his money, he rejoins his party, but is stopped by someone calling his name. The voice belongs to Mark, an acquaintance of Ryu's who greets him warmly. Mark explains he came to investigate rumors of someone selling rare materials, correctly guessing it was Ryu. As Ryu introduces Mark to his companions, they confirm they met in the Dwarven Kingdom. Mark mentions how unexpected it is to see Ryu here, especially when things in the duchy are so unstable, piquing Ryu's curiosity. Mark reveals to a shocked Ryu that the king of the Elk Duchy is ill. He explains that in this country, only those who have formed a contract with the Spirit King can become king. With not even the prince having succeeded, the whole nation is drowning in anxiety. Ryu wonders if the Spirit King and the king of this country know each other. He realizes the letter he's carrying from the Spirit King might be about the succession. Mark asks what brings Ryu to the duchy, and Ryu internally panics, knowing he can't just blurt out the truth. Ryu vaguely says he's helping a village save its people, which shocks Mark. Ryu then asks Mark about slavery in the country, suspecting the captives were enslaved. Mark confirms this, mentioning an underground guild called Blackfang Wolves that deals in poaching and worse. Mark then reveals he knows of a slave dealer linked to that guild, much to Ryu's surprise. Mark warns Ryu that with the way he and his party are dressed, it will be tough to get in. He explains that slave dealers only interact with those who look like they have money, suggesting a noble disguise. Mark offers to show them to a clothing store and the slave dealer's location, saying it's the least he can do. After Mark leaves, the party changes into elegant noble clothing. Tiamat complains that it's hard to move in her dress, though another companion thinks it suits her. Ryu then briefs the group, reminding them that they are going undercover as noble family members. He tells them to make sure they act carefully. Dressed in their new finery, Ryu and his companions strike a pose, fully transformed into a picture-perfect, if slightly eclectic, noble family. Ryu assigns everyone their roles for the disguise, starting with himself as the father. Tiamat is assigned the role of the mother. Karin and Auka are to be the daughters. Ruri indignantly asks why she has to be the pet. Ryu explains that it's the only way to conceal her ears and tail, unlike Karin's wings which can be hidden by her clothes. With the plan finalized, they get ready to head for the slave dealer. Arriving at the slave dealer's establishment, they are greeted by the proprietor. The dealer welcomes them, asking if it's their first time. Ryu uses Mark's name as an introduction. When asked what kind of slave he is looking for, Ryu freezes, not having prepared an answer. Tiamat smoothly takes over, stating she wants a slave for housework, perhaps a good-looking one for decoration. The dealer invites them inside to see his wares. The group follows the dealer inside. As they walk, Ryu asks what kind of slaves he has, to which the dealer replies various kinds. The dealer lists various types, including people sold due to debt and former adventurer dwarves, promising satisfaction with his top-quality selection. Karin whispers that it's disgusting, but Ryu quiets her to maintain their cover. The dealer adds that he also has demi-humans, mostly beastmen, which catches Ryu's attention. The dealer offers to show them around if they are interested. Ryu asks if they have any elves, which causes the dealer's friendly facade to drop instantly, replaced by a sharp, suspicious glare. Realizing his mistake from the dealer's reaction, Ryu begins to apologize. The dealer quickly composes himself and denies having any elves. Ryu is taken aback by the firm denial. The dealer explains that elves are extremely rare and hardly ever appear on the open market, usually being reserved for auctions. The dealer elaborates that auctions yield more money for rare slaves like elves, so other dealers likely don't have them either. This makes sense to Ryu, but he realizes it complicates their mission, as the cost at auction is unpredictable. He asks for the location of the auction, but the dealer refuses, stating that such information is only for regular, trusted customers. Switching tactics, Ryu places a heavy bag of coins on the table, asking the dealer to tell him everything he knows about elf slaves. The bribe works. The dealer slides over a list of the next auction's items. He reminds Ryu to keep the information strictly confidential as he reviews the list. The dealer notes that the underground guild has recently been bringing in many women and children, including top-quality elves. As Ryu looks through the list, he realizes the scale of the problem and knows they must be careful to save them all. His eyes land on a particular elf named Wilrose Ray Sauron. The dealer compliments his choice, noting his sharp eye. The dealer informs him that this elf is the star item at the auction in 3 days. Recognizing the name Sauron, Ryu realizes this is the village chief's daughter. With little time before the auction, they must hurry. Ryu questions why there are so many elves if they are so rare, surprising the dealer with his prized selection. The dealer hesitates, reluctant to say more until Ryu presses him. The dealer finally reveals the whole truth. The elves are just a bonus and the real targets are spirits. Ryu is shocked by this revelation. The dealer explains that with the king sick, powerful people have begun a spirit hunt to capture spirits and form a contract to become the next king. Elves who live close to spirits are simply caught in the crossfire. Remembering the elves begging for help as their kin endure humiliation and suffering fills Ryu with rage. The dealer's callous explanation that people are just treating them like things for their own convenience fuels his anger. Ryu glares at the dealer, thinking they shouldn't mess with them. His companions notice his murderous intent leaking out. The dealer, sensing the dangerous atmosphere, nervously asks if something is wrong, but Ryu says it's nothing. Ryu tries to press for the identity of the powerful people involved, but the dealer refuses, citing credibility. Ryu thanks him for the information he did provide. He announces their departure, saying they will buy slaves another time. The party leaves the establishment. Outside, the party is shaken, finding it awful that elves are being kidnapped for money. Tiamat asks if Ryu is okay, and he affirms that he is. His resolve hardened, he declares that they must save both the spirits and the elves, and that humans cannot be allowed to neglect other races for their own convenience. They agree that their next step is to find more information on the spirit hunt and the captive's location. The group decides to ditch their conspicuous noble disguises. After hiding the clothes in an alleyway, Ryu prepares to move on. He is about to suggest they continue gathering information. However, he notices something amidst the pile of discarded garments. From within the pile of clothes, a small, cloaked child emerges with a cheerful smile and a friendly greeting. Ryu and his companions are left utterly stunned and confused by the sudden appearance of this mysterious stowaway.